Okay, is it recording now? Yes, awesome. So let's see. So good morning. My talk is going to be on talking about Discourse discussion forums and how I'm using them to deliver my content for the students and then trying to engage with the students. My name's John Hammond. I'm an instructor at WSU. I teach math. And so here we go. First and foremost, I do want to ask your patience. This is the first conference presentation I've ever done, so it's actually very convenient because I'm in my basement, and so that has an extra comfort level for me. So thank you guys for coming. I also want to apologize in advance because I don't do things in PowerPoint. I usually do Emacs org mode and Pandoc, exports. So this is also an adventure. So let's see. What I want to talk about in my presentation is I'm going to begin with a few minutes talking about my evolving use of tech in my online courses, just to give you an overview of things. I'm going to talk about the dark times before what I'm doing now. I'm going to talk about my move to Discourse. I'm then going to talk about very briefly the use by the rest of the department, as well as just acknowledge basic setup, my recommendations for configuration for a class, specifically teaching math, but any classes can work as well. Touch on WCAG accessibility as well. And then I'm going to just spend a few minutes at the end and then with the Q&A for how IT can help teachers like me. So first and foremost, we're going to go from bright slides to dark slides because we're going to talk about the dark times. So I do want to spend just maybe like 5 minutes on the kinds of options that exist, just specifically because I want to highlight what things that I've tried as someone who tries to just experiment. So you can see what kind of options are being used possibly by your teachers at your universities. And we can kind of explore some of the limitations that I've found on those. Discourse isn't a panacea, definitely not, but it's pretty good. So here, let's begin. So the first thing is when I first taught an online class back in 2015, 2016, I think, I was using Blackboard. I was using a separate website and I was using email because that's what I knew. So Blackboard is what you know and love, right? I would have announcements on Blackboard. I would have videos of the class on a separate departmental website. In the background here, you see this beautiful HTML file that just has links to content videos. And then what I would also do is I was teaching at the same time a live in-person class of the same. And so I would record those lectures and then post them for the online class. It was kind of crappy. I also did, the Q&A was over email. So it's just lots of exchanges. I mean, I didn't really get good at teaching online classes. I got really good at boilerplate responses to emails, okay? It was very much a meh kind of situation. So I realized that that was a problem. Specifically, I highlighted email connection being a problem because I kept answering the same questions over and over again. So I switched over and I did Blackboard. I did a separate website and I did Slack. So I've got a picture here. You can kind of see there's my beautiful website where it's got the embedded videos and all that. But I would have my announcements on Blackboard. I'd have the videos still on the separate website and I would have Q&A over on Slack. This was cool, right? Because at that point, I have this communication service that's being used by companies and so on, so we can all get on there and we can all chat. I had at the time considered Discord, but I didn't like that Discord just had like push to talk, communication. I didn't, at the time, I was not thinking about sitting in my basement talking to my students. That's definitely changed now, but that's why I went with Slack instead of Discord. It had some drawbacks though, and one of them is that there were 3 places for information, right? The students had to check Blackboard, they had to check the website for the content, they had to check Slack for all the information. There was another hidden problem that I didn't know, but that I didn't discover that until later on. So let's take a look at the next solution, because after this, I thought, well, let's do this next thing. So my next iteration is I used only Blackboard and only Slack. So the announcements and the videos were all on Blackboard. So in the background, you see this, I had the folder structure on Blackboard here. And then I've got down here inside of it, it's within the Blackboard window. You'll notice it's this exact same HTML file. It's just embedded as an iframe. I mean, like, high five to myself, because I thought that was brilliant. They only had one place to look for the content, and all the communication was done on Slack. I mean, again, I solved the multi-source problem, but the problems came that Slack is not a threaded, I mean, it is threaded communication, but the students tended to not notice that there were threads. Even students who could use the threaded features of Slack didn't do it great. Unfortunately, communication with students would cause a lot of noise within the channel, because as soon as one person asks a question, previous answers immediately scroll up. So if you're not actually engaged actively with the Slack channel, you miss a lot. There is a search feature, but it wasn't giving the students the results that they needed in a convenient way. I had to many times myself search the previous chat, find the URL for the message, and then paste it to answer the question over and over again. It was basically the same email problem that I had before. Really, the medium of communication was interrupting the message. I was a math teacher, but I wasn't actually teaching the math because the actual platforms were getting in my way. So I needed to rethink about how I can do this. We went looking for a new medium, and you'll notice now my theme is getting brighter because it's like happier, right? I need threaded communication. That's huge, all right? I need it to be easily searchable. Search needs to be like a first party like option as well. And it needs to be mobile friendly. Selfishly, it's because I actually like typing quick responses on my phone. My phone is always in my pocket, and it's like, hey, you have a question, bang, 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 I do it. It also turns out students want it too. Shout out to the WSU ARC conference on Tuesday. The presentation was what students want teachers to know. They didn't like Blackboard forums because they weren't mobile. So hey, Discourse for the win. It also needs standard LaTeX syntax, integration with MathJax. I don't want a WYSIWYG click to type math, because I'm a math teacher and I type math. That's my job. I want to be able to communicate with the students as fast as possible. And I want to be able to type math with my phone keyboard. And so again, LaTeX is the way we can do this. So at the time, I was actually writing a textbook for a class in the pretext math book language. And what I found actually was that I could, within it, embed a forum, and Discourse was meeting all of the 4 needs that I had before. Plus, it had the ability to embed directly into my textbook. So the time was exactly right. Whenever I implemented this semester, during that semester, students didn't have to go somewhere to look to where to ask questions. They just scroll to the bottom of the page of each section in the textbook. It's in the textbook. Students didn't have to search for relevant questions. Hey, did Sally ask such and such about question 4? It's in the textbook. And students didn't have to ask the same question over and over again, because it was already answered where you expect, right? So here's what it looks like today. I want to take a look at some live examples. Here's just like a picture of this semester communication just like a couple months ago. So I've got, this is clickable links, but you can't click my screen. So let me move over and hopefully this works out. I'm going to hit, oh no, go back. Here, how do I do this? Can you guys see my screen now with the notes? Hopefully you can.
Yes, it looks good.
Beautiful. So here's my textbook. It's fine, but you scroll down at the bottom of the text. I mean, like here, I'll just plug pretext for a second. Hey, look, it's collapsible videos. That's cool. Anyway, so that's not what I'm giving a presentation about. Scroll down to the bottom. Look, there's discussion forums. Here is a screenshot. Here's me answering, students asking questions, me responding. Hey, look, there's like formatted code. I do this, here's math typing and so on. We're going back and forth and the communication is just right there. If you'd like to communicate and continue the conversation, you just hit continue discussion, boom, you get to ask your question and I'm going to answer it on my phone. A second sample was in the modular exponentiation. I just thought this one was a cool example because my students, like here, Jacob's writing some stuff and he's writing mathematics too, and it's getting kind of cool. And then it shows threaded replies. You can kind of see how we go back and forth. Here's a nice markdown table. Here's Natalie is asking me a question, and there's, paper. She shows me her work, and then here's where your answer, you're going a little wrong. So again, that was huge in my ability to be able to bring discussion directly into the content of the class. Let me switch back over to PowerPoint here. So that was cool. The introduction to Discourse, I don't really want to introduce it to you. So I've actually included a link to the gist here, as well as that's posted in the hop-in session as well. This link takes you to features for the actual Discourse server. They host their own discussion forums, so you can pay them money and then create your forums, or you can host it yourself. Here's a screenshot of a software community I follow, so the Obsidian Markdown editor community. You can kind of see all these cool things. You've got like various categories, and you've got posts, and search is very obvious up here, so it's very very handy. And I just think I just wanted to share that as an instance. I mean, I was on their site yesterday. So, but what's my use for Discourse? Well, originally, what I was doing was the thing with the discussion. All of it was within the textbook, but that kind of changed. The big pivot thing happened last year, about 15 months ago, and everything is now on Discourse. So I still use Blackboard, but Blackboard is just for posting grades and returning the student feedback for the content. And it's got links to Discourse. I also post weekly announcements with silly videos of me like posing with a squirrel because I'm into that. But all the weekly announcements just have links to Discourse where they do engage with all the content. All of the content is in a Discourse category concept. Okay. So here are two samples for my use of Discourse. I'm going to go first back to summer 2020, where I was teaching in my evolution mathematics class. I've got a sample class and a sample student presentation. So whoop, back over to Safari. And so here is that tab. So before class, I've got, here's what you need to do before class. Here's the actual class. I post this. Here's the link to the embedded YouTube video. If you just Discourse has things called one box, where if you just paste a link, it will automatically display certain things as first party citizens. So a YouTube video becomes an embed automatically. I've got what your homework is after the class, continue the discussion, and then we can, go back and forth after that. I then have to find how to make this go somewhere else, go away. Here we go. There we go. All right, here's an example of a student presentation where she's uploaded her presentation, and then people go back and forth, and we can chat about it. My students also got super creative about it. This is actually in the fall class where one of my students was discussing the history of navigation, and so he ended up running an entire discussion of navigation by playing the game Sea of Thieves and demoing how that works out. And so that was pretty cool. Marin, yes, you're mentioning the Canvas does have math formula support. We're not a Canvas campus. So for whatever that's worth, Blackboard's support is poop emoji. And so that's my inappropriate comment there. Let's see. Oh, so anyway, discussions, we go back and forth. And anyway, the innovation my students had was really neat. I also want to jump to calculus. This was my class just just ended a couple weeks ago. So here is a tab of, this is what the actual, like all of my classes, my students don't see this. This is because I see all of the things, but I've got this weekly list of week 1, week 2, and so on. And then here's like an individual lecture where here's concepts with pictures. I've got pictures of graphs. I define terms. I do mathematics. I have within here footnotes that I'll talk about later. Here's a YouTube video. Here is a GeoGebra activity. If you'd like to play with it, you can click on that. Lots of math, more examples, more videos. And we can go down, there is hidden text here. So students can like attempt the example and they don't see the answer until they click on it. And then they can discuss and we can go back and forth after that. So also because mobile first is a really important thing, I'm going to jump over to Chrome Inspector. And so here is the exact same page. This is rendered as a Pixel 2 XL. And you see that it's exactly the same site. We can pretend now that we have an iPhone X. Here's what it looks like on an iPhone X. And if we are pretending that we have an iPad, here's what it looks like on an iPad Pro, where it looks like, an actual desktop. So anyway, it just scales automatically. No refresh is needed. It just works because, again, it is built for the web, and mobile is one of their first goals. So that's huge. Let's see. The sample, again, like kind of demoing how you can have images and videos and math. You've got GeoGebra activities, tables, spoilers, replies, all of that like is encapsulated in like that one post. So let's see. Rest of the department, how do they use these things? Well, other teachers in the department have been using it for content delivery as well. Individual sections of the various calculuses, I decided to go with calculi, linear algebra, differential equations. So like not all of the sections of these classes, but individual instructors have gone with going with these as their approach. And we've been bouncing ideas off of one another about how to present the information, and it's gone very well. Let's see, we've implemented an upper division help system where one of our faculty has created a bunch of discourse discussions for individual classes for the upper division mathematics that aren't covered by the math help labs. And so students in those classes can ask questions, and then faculty or other students can get in and answer the questions. Let's see. So very quick setup stuff. And again, this is linked on the gist that I posted, the GitHub gist. Docker image is provided by Discourse. Discourse itself is an open source platform. If you want, again, you can pay them to run it. But they have in this link, again, linked on the gist. You can set up a cloud server in 30 minutes or less. So you just spin up the Docker image and just make it happen. On campus, we're running 3 Docker images because I'm a special snowflake, so I get my own, and it's a little bit weird because I'm embedding my discussions into the textbook. I need all of my posts specifically for the textbook to be world readable. So my students can access the textbook on any device, like their phone, their iPad, or whatever, without being logged into Discourse. Because if you're not logged into Discourse and permissions are required to view the post, it looks like this. You get this obscure error at the bottom, error embedded, that doesn't actually tell you anything about how you should or how you can log into the Discourse discussion forums. And for this reason, that being super annoying, I have all my posts to be readable by everyone. It's only postable by my students, though. My other instructors don't want their students to be confused by all of my posts that I talk about discrete math. And so they have their own server, and then I have mine for this weird setup. So this is our good approach. But all 3 of these Docker images are all running on the same actual physical machine. So, I mean, that's the magic of technology. So I have some recommended configurations for a first class, specifically things that I like. One of them, and these are actually in, these are recommendations for how you could go with a class. So first of all is you can create a class. It's very convenient. You can create permissions for groups. They also have like staff level permissions. So you can say, I'm just going to call out Mark Arrowsmith can be a teacher permission in my Discourse forum. He has access to be an administrator for the group, his class. He then can create invites for his class, who then also have only permission for that group. And that group only sees what is called a category. And so they only see the content for that individual class. And there I say it's accessible to a particular group. I would recommend very much, and this is something I got from one of our other instructors, and it's a brilliant idea, is to have weekly subcategories. So we'd have a week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, just to really break the content up because they know exactly where to go, and to have like a color category for each week because I am a nerd. My colors are the official WSU colors for the active week so that they know this is the week we're actually working on. And then I would say I'd recommend having individual posts for each day as well within those weekly categories. So here is the example, like you were just seeing a little bit ago. Here is all my classes, and the screenshot. Week 14 was the last week of classes. The students, whenever they would log in, would only see the class they're enrolled in. So if they're in Calc 2, they would only see this Calc 2 with their 14 weeks of content. If they're in Calc 1, they only see this content. I have a pending category up here for all those posts that I have created but have not actually like posted. And that's been huge as well, because I don't want to deploy unfinished lectures to my students, but I also don't want to do them all in one sitting. So I do all my work in this pending forum. The book questions here are the ones that are then linked. All my students do see that, but I also tell them, don't worry about it unless you're enrolled in this class. Don't panic. And that's our guiding words. So then this is within week 7. Here's an example of what if you click on week 7, then it takes you here. The posts are in reverse order by date. And so lecture 19 would be the Monday, lecture 20, lecture 21. Here is, because I don't know, buzzword crazy, checkpoint is the word for my quizzes, the fancy for quizzes. And then I've got the Tuesday and Thursday live class. If you clicked on those links, it would take you to the actual live class conversations that we had engaging with the students on Zoom. The other 19, 20, 21 are all asynchronous content. And so anyway, that's just how I ran this class, and it worked out really well embedded here. Let's see. So some recommended extensions, because Discourse has at its basic, it is a discussion forum. You can type, it's just beautiful UTF-8, content you can do, but you can extend it by adding additional extensions to it to take the material to the next level. So Discourse footnote is, before I get to footnote, an example, there's like a graph viz extension. If you want to be able to plot graphs, you can do all kinds of things. Let's see. So the recommended extensions, I'm a big fan of footnotes. They're super, this is unnecessary, but I love the Pratchett style footnotes. I discovered this when I was making the presentation, that I made this ridiculously dumb joke that for whatever reason, because I'm a dad, delighted me when I saw that. So that's the kind of dumb footnotes that I put into my content. If you're into dumb footnotes, Discourse footnote is just for you. I also like to have footnotes within footnotes. And so if House of Leaves is meaningful to you, high five across the void. So another extension that is a big one, whether you're teaching a math class or not, is going to be the spoiler alert plugin. That allows you to conceal content until a student clicks on it. So I showed that just a little bit ago on one of those posts, but it looks like this, where they have to, again, click on that content to reveal it. That gives them one extra hurdle before they reveal the solution. So maybe 1 or 2 of my students were actually working the problems before seeing the answer. I can dream, I can hope. But anyway, that's just one extra thing that I thought would be kind of handy. So the Discourse math is essential if you're doing a mathematics or like a chemistry, physics, that kind of thing, where you're using LaTeX formatting. It is, and if you, and again, all of these hyperlinks are available on the GitHub gist, which is again posted in the chat and on the forum, on the hop-in. If you do embed the forum in another site, which is probably going to be nobody, you need to patch it every time Discourse updates, not dates, so that's a typo. Every time Discourse updates, you need to patch it, only if you're doing an embed. And again, I'm kind of weird for doing the embed, so most people would not need to do this, but the patch is actually also on the gist. The Discourse math lets you do anything, which is huge. I mean, so here is the absolute gnarliest math thingy expression I could find. I have zero idea what that means, but it goes to, I typed this in Discourse, and like this is a screenshot of Discourse rendering mathematics. So you can get like textbook quality mathematics of whatever the world this is. I guess there's like an inner product there, but whatever. And this is, it's cool. So, and again, it also will like live update. I mean, this is just, I guess I need to nerd out just a little bit. If I go back to, it's in the pending area. This is unplanned, but worth mentioning. So is it this one? Yeah, so here's the gnarly text. And again, it renders here. They have it live renders. So if I want to go ahead and change like the front of this, and I want to just be like text check 2021, and then I do that, then boom, there's the text in it. And then it just renders the mathematics instantly, which is super cool. And then you can save the edit and there it is. So again, this level of the fact that this is a JavaScript library running on your browser, rendering the mathematics instantly is a big deal, specifically because as I'm trying to find my PowerPoint back, come back, PowerPoint. Specifically because as we are looking towards WCAG accessibility, that's one of the things that we need to do, right? The Discourse team has this post, if you click on that link, they're working towards the WCAG 2.0 accessibility standards. They currently have implemented high contrast color palettes for those individuals who are low vision. They are working on more things. The entire Discourse, like everything that they do, it's HTML5. All the mathematics is MathJax, which will run a MathML 3 specifically, which is what is required by what section 801 and the ADA. So I mean, these are specific things that are required by standards. MathJax has an accessibility extension that specifically will give browser hints for screen readers and braille writers. So whenever, if an individual needs that, you can enable that accessibility extension, which is built into the MathJax library. And it will, again, give the browser hints for screen readers that are capable. I've tested it using Apple VoiceOver, and it's kind of fun to hear Apple Alex like saying math, and he does a decent job. I've also used it at Chromevox on my on a Chromebook as well, and it works. It's awkward, but it works. One of my students one of my students, he was a student, he is blind. He actually said, he indicated, like, I mean, that quote there, he was able to get it to work, and hearing, like seeing the content that we were creating there be read by a screen reader awkwardly, but kind of okay. And then having it also like pop up on his braille writer, it was super cool. But anyway, so that's like, we're getting there. We're getting towards WCAG accessibility. They're trying. Okay, so how can IT departments support faculty like me? One of the purposes of the entire presentation before this was kind of just showing, like, here is experiments. This is what I did before, and this is what I'm doing now. So let us experiment. That is one of the big things that is a big takeaway. Over the past several years, like since my entire employment, Mark Aerosmith, who was doing the talk before this, Brody Sullivan in recent years have given me free range to kind of do whatever for trying new things. I can just say, hey, I read about blank and I'd like to do it. And then they'd spin up a server and let me try. Okay, some of the experiments never made it to a classroom. RIP MediaWiki. I thought running a MediaWiki and having my students generate a class wiki was going to be a great idea for my history class. That lasted just July. It didn't actually make it to the semester. But we got to try it, and and we experimented, and we saw it wasn't going to work. So then we just took down the server. Some of the experiments were abandoned after one semester, like see also all of the posts, all of the slides that were in black above, because all of those were just iterative approaches. But some of it turned out really good. I mean, we saw with this what I was doing with Discourse, the first semester I tried it, I ran it embedded in my textbook. Other faculty saw it and said, hey, I'd like to try that myself. So they spun up their instances. After the big pivot, we were able to get many faculty members to be enrolled into Discourse, bring their students on. And that was kind of huge. All of my students were able to just roll onto it, and many other sections were able to roll onto it. My students have reported favorably about Discourse. They've reported well, both in email, in posts on Discourse, as well as on the evaluations for the university in past semesters. I do think that my students are going to think they're going to think well of the everything that I've done this semester. Fingers crossed, because every semester you try to do better than before. But I couldn't have done any of this without the support of Mark and others for just trying to innovate and experiment. So what I would recommend is look for faculty members who are technically capable and just say, hey, what ideas do you have? What would you like to try? Encourage them to experiment. And as Mark said about 40 minutes ago, get underqualified people and grow them up. If somebody is kind of close, be like, hey, you know, this seems like this could be helpful for you. Just go ahead and give it a shot. I'd also recommend, especially if you're giving them a MediaWiki instance or like a Discourse instance, give them very limited access to administer their stuff. Specifically, every time Discourse updated, I needed to apply a patch, and that was kind of obnoxious. So I was given root access just inside my Discourse container, so I can get in there, apply the patch, and then get out. And that's it. It's entirely because every time I wanted to get a new plugin, I mean, I would have to say, hey, install this thing, and then anyway. So I got very limited access, and it's good. It is possible that underqualified people may break stuff. Sorry, Mark, June 2nd, 2020, last summer, whenever I accidentally killed the Discourse server. But daily backups are good. And so, yay, Discourse does daily backups. So we were able to recover everything. So that's nice. Keep an open mind because your faculty may have some interesting ideas that could be beneficial to others. So experiment is kind of the key word. So with that, I think I got like 9 minutes left. Oh, I have more minutes than I thought. Apparently my presentation's been open longer than I thought. So I talked faster than I needed to. I've gotten to the questions portion of the thing. So what questions do you guys have? We have 13 minutes for questions instead of 10. That's exciting.
So John, I was just curious, you've got so many things set up here. There's so many links, so many options to use. How long did it take you to set this up?
So the first time I set it up, it took me a while. I mean, so it did, like it is very much iterative, right? So the first time I set it up, it was just, no, get rid of Chrome. The first time I set it up, it was just very much, I only had one forum that only did this thing with the embeds. But as I've kind of learned to set up a class, like for example, if I'm creating my new class for the summer, which actually goes live in a couple of weeks, what I would just do is I would say, hey, I would like to create a new category. So we'd say create new category, and I want this to be Math 300. And then I would scroll down and just say, you know, save. And now that's set up, go back, and then I can then start populating this with content. So for that purpose, it doesn't take a lot of time to set up, if that's the part of your question. The learning and the experimenting, I mean, this has been, it's all lifelong learning, and I'm just a nerd. That was probably a poor answer to your question, I think, Fred, but.
No, you're fine. I was wondering too, I know you're working in the Mac environment. I'm assuming these tools are all available on the Windows environment as well with the appropriate links.
Well, yeah, so everything is actually just web enabled until in January, I got a MacBook. But before that, I've been using a Google Chromebook. And so everything is actually like just done by like just entirely on the web. You need no access to anything because it's entirely web-based. You have to run a server on like an actual machine, but everything else is just on a website. Marin is asking on the chat here, cross-browser issues with math formulas. In the past, there were, but the MathJax extension runs, because it's just JavaScript and it does live rendering, just rendered from on JavaScript. I has been working on Chrome and Safari. I don't use Edge. I haven't ever done that because like I had a Chromebook before, but Firefox, Chrome, and then now I have Safari. It's all worked 100%. My students have not had a problem. Whenever my student, actually, I should say, whenever my students do have a problem and they say, hey, I can't see the formulas, it's just showing symbols, it tends to be in my computer science math class, and it's because they're running no script. And so you have to tell them to disable that because you do need that script to run. But as long as you're running it, there hasn't been any cross-browser issues with it.
Yeah, that's usually the problem with those type of advanced things, is the browsers tend to not support them. So yeah.
Yeah, and this it's been like, this has been maybe because the browsers have been trying to be more open and accessible. I don't know, this math library, I've been impressed. They have been working on this for years, and like, so there used to be previous like this math plugin and this math plugin. This JavaScript that you can just embed in any website has been working for, I don't want to say the number of years because I'll be wrong, but at least the amount of time I've worked at WSU, this has been working for me, which is 9 years. So. Let's see, other questions. The accessibility thing has been a big deal, and I've been really excited that what they're doing, that they both are aware of issues and are specifically aiming to address them. So if they're not quite there yet, so like, for example, I don't have access to like the JAWS screen reader or other things like that, but they're working on it, and so I think that's pretty great. I just realized I'm just closing all these tabs because I forgot. Normally, whenever I'm screen sharing for school, like my students are like, don't see the screen that I'm clicking on. Normally they see that screen. So I've been doing this stuff over here. So hi, that's awkward. Go back to the questions tab. Let's see. So I got 7 more minutes on this presentation. I'm 9-month faculty, so I don't know that I'm getting paid right now. So
hey, if
that's
you're
up.
nerd, then you're getting paid just to do this. Right?
You hear that, Mark? I'm joking.
Nerds are great.
You do have an EPAT for summer, but I think that starts in a week and a half.
Sweet. No, and this goes actually to the if I jump over to this other slide thing with the faculty members who are technically capable. I mean, like this is not just like me talking about like being like, hey, look how great I am, but like I do this stuff all the time. Like this is what I do. Whenever I am relaxing in the evening, sometimes I'll be like, hey, you know what? I'm kind of I just need to relax. And I'm going to relax by seeing what other weird things I can do to help my classes, because that's who I am. And so you're going to have faculty members at your K-State, at Fort Hays and all that who have ideas. So just, again, seek them out and see what they want to try. Any other questions in our awkward last 4.5 minutes? I guess I should go back to Maren with the talk about Canvas. One of the, so the university, of course, our university has Blackboard, which has discussion forums built in. And I did try using the Discourse, or using the discussion forums in Blackboard back in like 2014, 2015. And it really is garbage, at least Blackboard, and at least for my use case. Among the problems is math doesn't render well. So even though there is a rich content editor in Blackboard, and it may be the same one in Canvas, I don't know, the rendering of the fonts, they render it as ping images in line. And so the ping images look like they don't line up well with the text. And so if you have any inline mathematics, which is a lot of what I write, you'll have words, jump, formula, down, words. And it interrupts the flow, and it's not good. And so I needed a way to be able to write math, so that it actually reads just like a textbook. And so this has been this works out really well. And that's actually why whenever I had way back when I was demoing the way back at the very beginning of the slides, and I was showing in the dark ages, I within Blackboard was embedding iframes of my website. It was because in this area over here, apparently you can't zoom in on that. That's too bad. But I would embed the iframes because the iframe inside of Blackboard over here would have math jacks inside of it. And so it would render math inside the web page because I couldn't actually render the math in Blackboard in a way that looked good. And so that was, again, it is what it is. And Fred, yes, there's so many options, definitely. Yeah, and there are, and our LMS admin, if you're still watching this, Carolyn, I'm going to be sending her the link to this talk just because I wanted to show off, hey, here's what you can do outside of Blackboard. And so, yeah, it is kind of neat. And again, I do still use the LMS for the things that it's good for, but for the things for which it is not, I definitely want to go elsewhere and try to deliver the content that I can. So I'm going to throw up the thank you for your time. And if anybody has any additional questions, I mean, I'm still here to answer, or if you want to, shoot me an email, I'm hammond@math.wichita.edu, or our standard WSU email is john.hammond@wichita.edu. Clap emoji, exactly. Have a wonderful day, guys. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
And thank you to Neil.
It was my pleasure. A very interesting topic.
Have a good day.
Thanks, you too.